Hello there! Welcome back to another video! This video is going to be the first in a several episode long series. I'm not entirely sure how long it's going to be, but I'm predicting at least 5 episodes, but it could be closer to 10. Well, anyway, you can see from the title that I've named this series My Fandoms, and I'm calling it that because it's going to be a bit of a story time / let's share things sort of series, where I've already done a series called My Growing Up series where I've depicted myself as I've been in several stages of my life, and the next step would be, and I kind of really wanted to talk about this, is sort of my obsessions across time. So first, we're going to go chronologically, and I was debating whether to have this one as the first episode or next episode as this episode. But anyway, first episode of my fandom series is going to be featuring Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball, or I kind of don't even want to say Dragon Ball GT, but I mean... Anyway, so Dragon Ball Z, Akira Toriyama's manga, the anime, the dub by Funimation, the dub by I don't know who but's in Spanish, and I don't know who but's in Portuguese. Dragon Ball. I absolutely love Dragon Ball. I used to have this tradition. I don't so much anymore, but I did for I think 6 years, from when I was 10 till 16, something like that. I used to rewatch the entirety of either Dragon Ball the original or Dragon Ball Z start to finish once per year. And honestly, I am so attached to this show about muscular people punching each other to death. I really like this. And so the story of me discovering, because okay, this My Fandom series is going to be split up into a couple different sections. First section is how I discovered it. Second section, it's kind of loosely sectioned, don't hold me up to it please. Second section is how I've gotten attached to it over time. Third section is probably going to be my favorite parts of it, like my favorite characters and my favorite scenes or my favorite specific things about it. And then we're also going to talk about my fan experiences. So mostly it's just going to be me rambling on about fan fictions that I like about this particular series or the series of the episode. If you don't know, I'm really into fan fiction, so get ready, but that's in the end. In the description, I'm also going to be leaving some recommendations of my favourite Dragon Ball Z fanfics, so you can look for those if you also like Dragon Ball Z and fanfics. But so, how I discovered Dragon Ball Z is more like how Dragon Ball Z has always been a part of my life. So in case you don't know, I have an older brother. He's 5 years older than me. When I was just a baby, honestly months old or even less, my brother was already going to primary school, and so he, like myself and like my mother, is not a morning person. So my mum used to have a really hard time waking him up, even as he was 5 years old. But so what she would do, she would get up in the morning, she would dump little baby me on his bed, turn on the TV to Dragon Ball, and then go make a coffee. And meanwhile, me kind of gurgling and rolling around his bed with Dragon Ball was supposed to be waking him up. And that worked, right? And so I don't have any particular memories of it, but what I do remember is Dragon Ball's always been, a part of my life and something that I really loved, and it's always just been happiness to me, way before anime was a thing for me, way before art was a thing for me, way before I even knew most of anything that involves life. I've really loved Dragon Ball, so cha-da, hey cha-da, that theme song's been something that I've heard as much as I've heard my dad's favourite music sort of thing. So I've always loved Dragon Ball, and then when I was around 9-10 years old, I kind of discovered the joys of streaming anime on the internet. Illegally, of course. I wouldn't recommend it. It leads to a lot of computer viruses, and way back when, and even now, it's still not really the safest thing to do for your computer. But when I was able to find, because I'd watched Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z entirely through maybe once or twice, because I was lucky because I had caught it when it was streaming on TV, but otherwise I would kind of just wait and love it and know that I loved it but not be able to have it sort of thing. But then I found out how to get it online, and then that's when I started the whole watch it all the way through once per year, and then eventually it turned into let's watch all of DBZ Abridged once per year instead, because honestly I'm also a big fan of Team 4-Star DBZ Abridged. I really love it. But yeah, but the basics of all this is I love Dragon Ball Z. It's always been a part of my life. I haven't been entirely up to date with Dragon Ball Super. I've watched around half of it so far, but life's been busy. But still, Dragon Ball is super important to me, and yeah, that's why I decided this to be my first episode, because it's been the longest running fandom I've been a part of, The other reason why I wanted Dragon Ball to be my first episode in this fandom series is because when I first discovered fanfiction was a thing, I was around 12, I want to say 12 or 13 years old. The first fanfic I technically read was for Naruto, and that's when but the first time I discovered like the website fanfiction.net, my first go-to fandom was Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball had like 30,000 stories on it, I think, 30, 40,000, I'm not entirely sure how many, but I went on there, and what was the first thing I searched for was Gohan and Videl stories. So it was because I was a preteen, I was 12, 13, whatever it was, and I was finally starting to get into I want to read romance novels, why doesn't my shonen anime have romance in it, sort of thing. So I decided, right, let's see if, since obviously Akira Toriyama is not going to write us any romance, even though he has weddings and stuff in his stories, let's go see if I can find any in fanfic form. And I did, and it was wonderful and lovely, and I stayed happy in my Dragon Ball Z section of fanfiction.net for ages. I even started writing one. Please don't go look for it, because it was, again, I was 12 or 13, something like that, and I wrote my own high school Gohan and Videl story, and it wasn't pleasant. I never finished it. It was like super cheesy. I had no idea what I was doing, but like that's sort of what makes Dragon Ball so special to me. Like at 12 years old, I was writing my first ever fanfic for it because I loved it for so long, and I stayed only reading Dragon Ball Z fanfiction, even though I had the entirety of fanfiction.net at my disposal. I only read Dragon Ball fanfics from what must have been like 6 months to a year, something insane. Like I just stayed within my happy little DBZ bubble. But yeah, Dragon Ball's just really, really connected. Like whenever someone asks me what's your favourite series, you know, some people might say like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, or I'm like, no, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z. This is my one and only true love. I really do. And yeah, okay, so let's get talking, because I know fanfiction, whatever, but the characters. It's Dragon Ball. It's not meant to be overthought, overplanned. The more I look into it, the more like Akira Toriyama had no idea what he was doing. His editor tried to help him out, but like really, it's not well planned. It's not well structured. The whole power escalation in it went crazy. But at the same time, if it weren't for Dragon Ball, I probably wouldn't have any of the awesome shonen that I do have, like Naruto or My Hero Academia or most of those things. A lot of it, like it's. Dragon Ball was the first, and also I don't even know if I would have gotten so, because of course when I was younger, before I could like hunt for my own things to watch on the internet, I had the TV, and so I had like, I didn't actually have Sailor Moon until I had internet actually, so I had Inuyasha, I had Roaring Kenshin, I had things like that, I had Digimon, some Transformers series, some Pokemon of course, stuff like that. But Dragon Ball was sort of like my staple childhood shonen, because I wouldn't really consider Inuyasha as much of a shonen, and I didn't really like, there's the other ones, but the other ones are more like merch shonens. This was like story shonen. It wasn't like Beat 'em On or Yu-Gi-Oh or Beyblades or stuff like that. It was just characters fighting, and then I don't know, my favorite character is Trunks, Future Trunks, because little preteen Trunks isn't that friendly, and the Trunks that we see in GT is sort of a tool. I mean, I like him lots, but he's still not, you know. Future Trunks is like really dutiful, really cool. I also really like Vegeta. Goku, I really liked Goku when I was a kid, but now that I'm older, I've learned to see his selfishness, and I still have a lot of fondness towards him as a character, and I think you can fight me on this. He can KO Superman any day, right? And I will argue this to my death. Goku's better than Superman. I don't care how godly they make Superman, because the thing is with Goku is that he's earned all his power, and Superman is just, he just has it, and he gets it taken away every other chapter, every other comic. Anyway, but yeah, I really like Dragon Ball. And Goku as a character, not so much. Chi-Chi as a character, not so much. Vegeta's amazing. Piccolo's amazing. Yamcha, he gets too much trouble. Krillin is awesome. Bulma's also like my hero. I always wanted to be Bulma growing up. What else? I really like all the little creatures that they have. I love the turtle. I love Icarus, the dinosaur, even though he was like king of filler in the freaking whistling song. What else is there? I loved all the dinosaurs. Like, I really love the world of Dragon Ball, that they have all these like anthropomorphic characters as well as like dinosaurs roaming around and all this like sci-fi stuff at the same time. It's a really awesome combination of things, and I'm a little bit sad that they kind of don't have as many dinosaurs in Dragon Ball Z as they did in Dragon Ball, but it's still, I don't know, Akira Toriyama's a genius. To talk a little bit about my painting, now in the middle of all this gushing, I'll find more things to gush about in regards to Dragon Ball, just you wait, but the painting I wanted to do high school Gohan and Videl in homage to the first thing that I went looking for when I found Dragon Ball Z fanfiction was high school stories of Gohan and Videl, and I debated doing Videl's hair shorter, but if I did her hair shorter, I'd have to have done her in her pink shirt, and I really didn't know if I felt like adding that strong of a colour. Like, her boots are already green. Cut me a slack and spare me from the pink. I was kind of worried about doing Gohan's face and hair, because Videl, like, Akira Toriyama's style is really distinctive in and of itself, but when it's a little girl, it's really, especially Videl's design. Gohan's design's a lot simpler. He doesn't even have Goku's crazy hair. He's just, in high school, he just sort of had, like, a haircut, you know? And when I sent a work in progress shot of this when it was just a sketch, my friend couldn't tell who they were, and I felt kind of discouraged. But I feel like it's clear enough, now that it's coloured, that the horrendous pants and the way the belt is and the little vest, whatever, I think it's clear enough, but it was really hard to kind of translate, because I didn't really want to just adopt Akira Toriyama's style, because I've done that when I was learning. I copied a bunch of like Dragon Ball fan art and illustrations just for learning purposes, but I kind of wanted it to be a bit more personal, so I wanted to interpret it as my own thing, and my own thing is like, I don't know, it's a lot different. But Gohan's hairstyle, once I reinterpreted it, it's actually really swanky and really polished and super like cool. He has that like the shaved sides and back sort of thing with a little poofy top, but he doesn't even need the hair wax or pomade or whatever, because he's a Super Saiyan and he can just have it stick up all around. And I don't know, I still think I made him a bit too like manly and handsome. I really can't see any of the Dragon Ball guys in this kind of, you know, more realistic, more chiseled sort of aesthetic, because it's a pointy nose, pointy chin, huge brow bone. It's kind of harder to reconciliate that kind of look to the way that I make my male characters look manly. But so it's still interesting. It's kind of unsettling I'm really proud of this piece, don't get me wrong, but it's still kind of unsettling to kind of make this feel like it's Gohan when it looks so much like this. Let me know what you think. Are you a fan of Dragon Ball? Do you have 20 years worth of memories of Gohan and Goku and whatever looking a certain way, and then how does this align with that? Let me know, because I'm really happy with it, but I'm still not entirely sure if it's the way it's meant to be, you know, or if it really reads well. Yeah. I think Dragon Ball Z is sort of a staple for a lot of people's childhoods. It's a lot of, especially anime fans, it's like a really big part of our history, of our culture, Western anime fans. It was sort of like one of the only things that we had on TV. It was some of the only things that ever got cinematic releases in theatres here in the West. I never got a chance to go to any DBZ movies in theatres, but my brother did, and it was like, I have like VCR cassette tapes of episodes and movies and stuff, and they're all in Spanish, and it's amazing. And like, DBZ is one of those shows that I can enjoy literally in any language, because it's been through me through all of my childhood. Through every language I've always been watching Dragon Ball. So the English dub, the Japanese original, the Spanish, the Portuguese, even like the bad Portuguese. There's a thing, if you're deep enough in the DBZ fandom, there's a comedy act in regards to the Portuguese dub. That's not the one that I kind of grew up a bit watching. I watched the Brazilian one, but the Portuguese one is hilarious. But yeah, all around it's just one of those stories that are like universal, and like the themes of Goku, who always surpasses his own limits, is really encouraging. And I don't know, it's just growing up with all these characters, and that's another thing, you don't really get to see it so much, but with Goku we got to see him as a little kid who lost his grandpa, to making his first sort of human friend, to learning martial arts, making a best friend, having teachers, to growing up into a teenager, into an adult, to getting married, to having a kid, to following his kid, to having his second kid, even through his kid being his kid having a kid, so him being a grandfather, that kind of things. Like, I really feel like I've grown up with Goku in a way, even though I'm more similar to Gohan and attached to Gohan. I think Gohan, here's the thing I don't like about the series, Gohan's missed potential after the Cell Saga. Like, come on, Toriyama, I haven't kept up with Super, I don't know any of the new things, maybe they've fixed it by now, but still makes me sad. That was another reason why I was so desperate to get into fanfics for Gohan and Videl, because I figured some fanfic authors would do Gohan justice and make him continue to be like strong, powerful and confident, stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah. And the whole Saiyan thing is hilarious. I bring some Saiyan into this later on, you'll see. In the background there's a bit of Saiyan, because I can't show high school Gohan and Videl without bringing in some Saiyan, because cringy as... I don't like to use the word cringy, but let's face it, Saiyan is cringe central. I mean, if you remember how Gohan, when he was like 5 years old, or 6 years old, was it 6 years old? Yeah, 6 years old, encountered the Ginyu Force as this like all-powerful, almighty thing, you kind of understand why he feels like it's alright to do all those silly poses, but at the same time it's just... the biggest struggle with this painting, not gonna lie, was Gohan's outfit, because, again, I don't like using the word cringy, but if you look at the original art, his high-waisted pants, high belt, his vest cuts off at like... If we were to like proportion, because I know Toriyama draws his legs mega long, but if we were to take the proportions, I'll sandwich in the art I used for his costume reference over here, but if we take the proportions, like the vest ends like at the bottom edge of his pectorals, and like what kind of a vest is that? It's like if he didn't have that undershirt, it'd be a crop top or something, but there's a rule 34 prompt for you. Go on with the crop top. No, and I also really found amusement in Gohan's cluelessness when he was in high school and stuff like that. That baseball episode is just, I've rewatched it like a million gazillion times. It's like my favorite thing to see him just be so unconsciously amazing at baseball. For the background here, I was trying to go for this brick wall texture and add some variation, add some graffiti, add some little greenery. I think it came out pretty nice, but it only really came together at the very end when I started doing a lot of... Oh, here's the Saiyan I mentioned. It only really came together when I added all the kind of effects that harmonized it. On Lourish's Instagram, she did a story talking about how she'd use the selective color editing thing, and so I decided to give that a try, because I knew about it but I never really used it much. I decided to give that a try for this one, and it really does do so much to unify the piece. Like, honestly, I really recommend if you have Photoshop to use the selective color editing tool. I put this green thing just as, it doesn't really matter what you use, most people just use white black, but I use whatever's my most recent color to check values to make sure everything's dotted right enough. The text behind the leg says Saiyan sucks, and then on top there's a little Saiyan head with the little peace fingers, because I figured that would be a good reaction of either Gohan himself or some Saiyan sympathizer. I added some noise just on the background and on the darker parts bit, just to help make it look better. Because when I shrank the floor, the shadows got out of alignment with the feet. And anyway, this is about it. Don't forget to check my description for my recommendations for some of my favourite DBZ fanfics. And yeah, leave a like, comment below. There will be more episodes in this series coming up soon. Like I said, I plan to do quite a few of them, because I am a part of a lot of fandoms that some of them are going to be a little bit weird to talk about, because they're not really that common for someone who also likes Dragon Ball Z and Naruto, like who's a complete shonen addict. But yeah, leave a like, subscribe, comment, follow my Instagram, and I'll see you next week.